Hi, and welcome to the Cosmic Prayer. Let me just adjust my camera there. How are you today, wherever you are on this beautiful planet? It is so great to be here. We are joined, of course, by Diego, who is our amazing show producer. Thank you, Diego, for everything that you're doing and for the consciousness and awareness that you bring to the Cosmic Prayer. Behind the scenes, but really in front of everything, organizing everything. Today on the Cosmic Prayer, I'm just really excited to invite back a guest that came on, a super guest that came on last year, and he's doing tremendous work online, because I know that online he's been very predominant in creating a community where people can come and be a part of his message and his teachings every week. And today he's bringing with him his beautiful partner and wife who also runs with him this conscious community, which is called Total Impact Church. So we are really blessed to be joined on the Cosmic Prayer on this glorious Monday by Reverend Adrian Moore and the beautiful Kevia Moore. I feel so grateful that you're both here. It feels complete. Thank you for joining today, for joining the Cosmic Prayer.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us. It's great to be back.
It's good to be back. That's it. And in the midst of last year, you came on and you talked so profoundly about your beliefs, about consciousness, about prayer. And I'm really excited to hear how that has shifted or transformed for you in the past few months, Reverend Adrian. Yeah.
Yes.
So let's begin with this for both of you. I'm going to ask you both this question of how prayer has been a kind of foundation and a bedrock for your lives, particularly in the last year. Let's begin with you, Reverend Adrian.
Sure. This last year has presented many opportunities for growth. So that's how I will define challenges. They're opportunities for growth. And that mindset comes from an investment in the practice of spiritual principles. I think all of us migrate to ideas and philosophies that resonate with us. And so whatever ideas and philosophies we migrate to that resonate with us wherever we are in consciousness will be the foundation, will serve as the foundation for building a consciousness that produces an experience for us. So the beginning of last year, as the pandemic presented itself, I already had established a foundation of spiritual practice, specifically prayer. And I believe last year, having that foundation, I want to use the word force, but I want to put a reframe. I want to use a different word than force. I was invited, very aggressively invited, assertively invited, passionately invited into, I would say, a conversation with myself. And so in facing myself and facing all of the things about my personality, because that's what growth opportunities do. They cause the personality traits, all of them, to come to surface. So mine came to surface just like everyone else's.
Yeah.
And there are judgments in those personality traits. There are biases in those personality traits based on our how we grew up, based on where we've lived, and not just personality traits, but the trauma. And so the foundation of prayer last year, what it did, it caused all of those things to come to surface. And I guess on a deeper level, I just decided that I would say yes, and I would address all of those things. and I just came into that agreement with myself. And so the prayer was the foundation for giving me the courage and the confidence to, as the Bible says, walk through the valley of the shadow of death. So it's so, because we know that, in consciousness, in spirit, in the divine, there is no separation. So it's the valley, it's a low place of a shadow. So a shadow of death. And so we know that a shadow is the result of light being cast on an image. And we all have these images in our mind. I feel like I'm off to the races here. We have these images in our mind, and I had to deal with my images. So that's why it's the shadow of death. And so indeed, but prayer was the foundation, because there was already an investment. It served as the foundation for me to use courage and use confidence to continue to evolve and affirm safety and security as I walked through all of the suggestions from the trauma and the experiences that came up from all the events of last year.
Oh, and it's so beautiful, because it's really speaking to your courage and your wisdom and your willingness to surrender to what we do not know, surrendering to the mystery there. And that's what you did. And that's why you're a reverend, because you're walking your talk. Yeah. Wow. So thank you so much for sharing, because I think this is really powerful for people to hear this, that there is another way. There is another way.
I love that.
Yeah.
There's another way.
There's another way.
Oh.
Well, for me, Laura.
Yes, Kevia. So I know that you're really involved with Total Impact Church, and you're there, and you're very present, and you are holding that space for the growth of your community and the expansion of your community in such a bold and loving way.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
And so for me, I know Adrian didn't want to use force. I felt even more pushed or propelled. If that's probably just about similar.
Great. I love it.
To be more intentional with my practice, and for me, going back to revisiting old practices. As I mentioned to you guys offline before, that I grew up in the Caribbean. I'm Trinidadian, born and raised, and I had grandmothers that pretty much raised me, because my parents were living here in the United States, and so they were more so taking care of me. So where prayer has really been an impact for me is just revisiting old practices. My grandmother was always in the garden. So,
talk about that.
Yeah, I was always in my grandmother was always in the garden, and I always followed her around. When I wasn't in school or I was on vacation, so I spent a lot of time following her and learning about, different herbs and plants and fruits. But, even during that time, my grandmother consistently communed. She sang and she would pray and rehearse scripture, and I'm like, wow, here I am again. We're during this pandemic, had a lot of time on my hands because business had slowed down for me, and so I was back in the garden, and I was intentional, and I spent so much time there, and I revisited some things. And I learned some things about myself, and I had to face some things, about myself. So I was communing with my higher self, of course, and, redirecting and realigning. So it's been, this time of, early on in the pandemic, or even during the pandemic, and we're still going through it, has been a real time of intentional prayer, and intentional communion with myself, and learning more about myself, and redirecting
Yeah.
So that's what it's
Yes.
been for me.
You know, I love what you're saying, you know, the garden piece. So really through you, I even expanded, and together we expanded our practice by being in that garden.
Oh, yeah.
So that was our spiritual practice.
Mhm.
So gardening is a strong spiritual practice that is loaded with principles.
Yes.
And loaded with examples, loaded with information, loaded with illumination for us.
Yeah. And for me, you know, so with my grandmother, when she was in the garden, she will she will, of course, pray, but she will call names of individuals. So she will have a vision of them and she will call the names. I pray for Lisa. I pray for June. I pray for Anne. I pray for Janice. And so she will call upon your name. And so for me, I went back to the place where, you know, or the practice of what I've learned. And I had to revisit, and I was seeing more individuals and praying for more and being in the community and focusing on things and the needs of others. And so that's where it had me. So I revisited. I've, you know, been, you know, I guess propelled to even be more prayerful than ever before.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I can just feel both of you together. You're just a power couple. You're a power prayer couple. I'm sure that you both, you know, none of this cannot affect both of you. You're both affecting each other with your consciousness and your intention of how you're living and how that bursts through in your community.
Yes.
Your spiritual community. And I just want to say that I love that piece that you shared about your grandma, because it's so amazing how our ancestors and our grandparents, or even great grandparents, if we remember them, you know, those seeds that they planted when we were really little, and sometimes it takes years for that to spark again in us, doesn't it?
Yeah, it took a pandemic. A pandemic to push us more and really slow down. And I mean, really slow down and just be directed. It was tough because some of the things that, you know, I was doing as I was gardening, as I was toiling, as I was weeding things up and planting, I mean, and watering, there were just some things I was like, wow, there's just some things, some weeds I need to pull out of. You know,
weeds.
I got to get rid of. You know, it's nothing. And then you have some weeds that actually, you know, are beneficial. So I found out that your dandelions are really good for, you know, for teas and for inflammation, but it doesn't, you know, I can't keep it there because then it's going to take over all of my other plants, but I'm going to root you up and I'm going to use you and replace you or redirect you to go somewhere else for me to eat or for me to drink. So it took a lot of work, and you know, and it's still happening because I still have my garden. So here we have the spring, then we have the summer, and now it's fall time, and so now we have to redirect and clean everything up and go through the process all over again.
Over again. And this is when we reach a higher level on that spiral.
Yes,
we see things from another, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how has this impacted your community? If this is the foundation of what's happened for you, you know, over the last year and this immense surrendering, how has this impacted your community?
So our vision and understanding and consciousness of serving, of ministry has expanded. So at the top of the pandemic, we made the decision to transition from the building that we had where we were gathering. And what that did, it actually expanded our understanding to recognize that, you know, our consciousness is the building.
Yes.
And so being flexible and continuing with excellence and commitment to how we serve spiritually, it began and it has begun and is continuing to resonate with our family and our community, because a part of our motto is impacting self, family, and community. We see that as the order. And so because of the investment and expanding and seeing letting go of the building as a growth opportunity.
Yeah.
It caused people from everywhere to reach out. Where we were, there was a season where we were doing prayer each morning, and people were flooding my inbox with prayer requests, and so even to this day, people reach out everywhere. And so there's no bound to there's no boundary to people's ability and their awareness to reach out. And so we've seen that happen in the community, and it's continuing to happen. It's continuing to resonate because of, and I think the continuity, the steadfastness to use everything that we have in our hands as instruments for serving. And I think because we believe that and we've continued in that, it resonates with people. So it's resulted in the community affirming, validating, and reaching out for help.
Wow. And a few things just came to my mind, and I want to ask you about this because we know that, Ernest Holmes, Dr. Ernest Holmes. Hi, Christine, watching from Kenya. Beautiful. Christine is a practitioner in ministerial education, in the process of becoming a minister in Kenya.
Awesome.
So I want to ask you, because this just came to my mind as you were speaking, how Ernest Holmes, Dr. Ernest Holmes, really initially didn't really want to have a kind of church system as a building. And yet there he did that. And he said yes eventually, and with an intention. And it's almost as if his prayer is kind of demonstrating now, because now we have ministries that have no walls. That are popping up just like a labyrinth. Anyone can walk in from anywhere, and have that freedom. That just came into my mind. How when we set an intention, it does unravel, even if it's 100 years later.
That's right. And
I was going to say, what's awesome though, even prior to the pandemic, we were online. We did Facebook Live for our services. And so, folks had access to us. And even, going through this process of not having the four walls. And, after Adrian went through the season of, just saying, hey, I'm available for prayer, and he would post it. I mean, now, even if he doesn't post anything, folks will know who to reach out to. For prayer, because we're making ourselves available. So it might be DMs, or they will just either text him, or they will text me, hey, can you pray for me? Or we'll see stuff on Facebook, and we'll continue to be present for those individuals or hold space for them. So it's something that's
beautiful. Here we have your Facebook page. Thank you, Diego, for putting this up here, Total Impact Church, where anyone can reach you and find out more and join that page, and contact you both by email, Reverend Adrian and Kevia. More, you can be contacted at that email address there. And I'm so excited that you're here on New Thought Media Network and sharing this today, because even though the pandemic, we're still in this, and I want to kind of get off the pandemic thing, because it's, we're kind of unraveled from that now, but we're not really, are we? So prayer is still important, isn't it? Do you believe that, Kevia? Even though we think that it may be over, or there is a solution, maybe. However, what do you believe about prayer? Us still being very committed to a practice of prayer, affirmative prayer.
I mean, it's ongoing. It never stops. I mean, for me, my practice, or just my everyday. I mean, just like today, I had one of my clients reach out to me, and he'd lost his mom, and it had nothing to do with the pandemic. And, it's like, hey, I need you, you and your husband. And he hasn't even met my husband. But he knows, because I talk about, when I talk to my clients, I mention, my husband is a reverend. And so that's even more helpful for them, or reassuring. But, say, hey, I lost my mom. please continue to pray for my family. We're going through a tough time. So it's, it's beyond a pandemic. We're constantly doing the work. It's every day, every moment of the day. I'm here, I'm vacuuming, and I'm like, okay, who should I be praying for at this moment? So then, pictures of individuals will come up of who, or a name might pop, or someone might send a text. So we're constantly in prayer, and prayer doesn't have to be, I have to stand still and be in a box or keep it. It's expansive. You can do it at any time, anywhere, in silence, or even when a fire truck or an ambulance is passing by, or even in a club, wherever you are, it can be done at any point in time.
Yeah. And so I'm currently, can you hear us? Okay, yeah.
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay,
It's,
great.
yeah, loud and clear.
Great. So we're currently teaching our current topic or lesson series.
Yes.
We're engaged in a series entitled Communion.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first principle of our philosophy, Principles of Conscious Living, is the principle of divine union. And we define it as the practice of recognizing my oneness with God, divine good. And what that does, practicing that principle affirms that we're never alone.
Yeah.
Practicing that principle affirms that there is no separation.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing that has really taken root in our consciousness this year. And that is practicing recognizing that truth and letting that truth take root, despite what appears to be that I am never separated from my good. Allowing that to take root and allowing that to take root gives a sense of assurance, and it causes a natural communion to happen. And so prayer, we know that the ritual of prayer just serves to awaken us to the reality of our being, that we are always in constant communion with life, with the good of life. There. And so when we have that as a foundation, we go to work. When you punch in the clock, you're knowing that you're going to meet God, you're going to meet good, because but it's a practice as a result of that foundation that has to take root, which is the work.
Yeah.
I believe Dr. Holmes said to treat and move your feet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Treat
it's like we got to be we got inner gardener. Get those roots in, it's so true, because I know personally when I'm not doing that, when I'm praying and it's just like la 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 and it's not taking root because I'm not centered in the knowing of who I am. I know the difference when I am in that place of really knowing it and feeling it. I feel it's like there is no denying that this is the truth.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's an amazing place to be in, isn't it?
Amazing.
It's amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. When it's clicking on all cylinders.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. When it's clicking on, when it's clicking on all cylinders. And it takes work to oil all the pieces of your consciousness for it to click. But once it clicks, it's on. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've been reading a lot of Emma Curtis Hopkins lately, and her work, and her conviction. So amazing how she there was just no messing around here. This is it. God is good, and God is good, and this good is here right now. And she just knew it and said it and taught it, and it takes that conviction, doesn't it, to turn it around in ourselves? Do you believe that? We have,
Yeah. I mean, I go back to the scripture, it's done unto you as you believe. And so that has been, when I do pray, or when I am praying or doing a treatment, it's like, what, I'm going to be very present, knowing or believing and affirming your good, knowing that it's done unto you as you believe. You want the results, you want a demonstration, this is what you have to do. It is done unto you as you believe. You want whatever it is, whatever results that you're looking for, it is done unto you as you believe. but it's only done if you're centered, if you're present. And once you're present and you see the results. So there's a formula that we had came up with. I was trying to remember what it was. I'm going to try and see if I can look it up that I had shared with Adrian, so that we can get the results. We came up with results for prayer. And so I'll find it as you guys continue to chat. But that was my thought. That was my thought. It's done unto us as we believe.
Yes.
Yes. And so I'm going to ask here, while you search for that, Kevia, if you can, that'd be amazing. And so, Reverend Adrian, what about when we can't get to that place?
Yeah.
There's so much happening, and our mind is not on the inner vision, it's on the outer vision, and that's where we believe that this, the effect has the power. Yeah. And for many of us, all of us included, there are times where we go there, we go to that place, we go to the shadow, thinking that is the truth, and believing that. How can we, if we're not practiced, how can we bring ourselves out of that to the place of this inner knowing?
Absolutely. Sure, absolutely. So again, the first principle of the principles of conscious living is the principle of divine union, the practice of recognizing my oneness with good.
Yeah.
Let's keep it simple, with good. And what that does, that flies against all of the conditioning of whether or not we deserve all good, despite whatever we've been, where we've been, what we've thought. And so I found that those times where I feel overwhelmed with the cares of life, and we do, it could be a day where you go to work and someone says something happens, and you go off. You may go off verbally, or you may just go off mentally, or go off emotionally, go in emotionally. And really, what I find those times, we're really disappointed with ourselves.
Yeah.
So there's a verse in the Bible that says, there is therefore now no condemnation.
Mm-hmm.
So that speaks to nurturing myself. So even if I feel crappy, even if maybe I said something I shouldn't have said, if I can remember, and this is what I do, if I get still and remember, whoa, I know what I just said, I know what just happened, but the truth is, good is still here with me. Good has not left me. I am not separated from good. So what that does, that restores me to right thinking, right feeling, which will result in right action. And so when that condemnation, that beating myself up lifts, then I see in the beginning of the broadcast, I use the words confidence and courage very intentionally. I mean, like I feel that right now because it takes courage to overcome feeling bad about yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because there's so much there's so many messages that come to us like an onslaught to try to define what we should be, do, and have. So when we lift the condemnation, it takes, you got to get like a bulldog almost and be courageous and say, I am going to listen to myself, my divine self. I'm going to stand, because it has to stop, because those days where you feel overwhelmed by life, like those days where we have disagreements and we're completely on the wrong, we're here, you're there, we're both everywhere.
Not aligned.
When we're not aligned, the only thing that can lift you out of that is a solid truth.
Yeah.
So in Psalm 61, it says, hear my cry, O God, attend unto my prayer, from the ends of the earth will I cry. When my heart is overwhelmed, when my consciousness, when my mind, when my soul is overwhelmed with the cares of life, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. The rock is truth. I need a truth that's higher than who I'm telling myself I am at this moment. Because when you blow it, sometimes you blow it and you start spiraling, and it seems like there's no way I can dig myself out of this. F everybody, forget it all. We get there. And so the only way out of that is a truth. You need a immediate truth. You need a rock, a stone of truth to stand upon.
Yeah.
So that and that truth will allow you to stand on it, and you have to choose to stand on it. And it takes courage.
Yes.
It takes courage. It takes confidence. And so that's the practice. There's no waiting on anything. I can't wait on anything to happen to lift me out of this. I gotta lift myself with a new truth. And so what I'm finding by doing that, when I get the feeling, so I'm restored to that sense of wholeness. I like that. So then I begin a personal restorative practice where I say, okay, I like this feeling.
Yeah.
And then now this is what I need to do to sustain this.
Yes.
I see what happened yesterday or an hour ago. So I want to sustain this feeling and this experience and these. And so I'm going to affirm truth for myself in this moment and continue to practice that when the opposing ideas present themselves again. Yeah. Yes.
Wow. And it would feel for me that the more we're practicing that, the less the opposing ideas present themselves.
Yes. They become smaller and smaller and smaller, less insignificant until they disappear altogether. Yes. Yes.
And you're right, though, it is the courage to turn away, isn't it? Not deny, because it is happening.
Right. No. You got to face it. Yeah.
We're facing it.
Yes. It takes courage to do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. It really takes courage. Like it takes courage to like when people are saying all these words that divide people. You know, you have to stand. I'm not saying get a sign and go out and get in arguments with people, but within yourself, you have to really use courage to stand and affirm oneness.
Yeah.
When ideas of separation present themselves, when suggestions of separation based on race, based on religion, based on whatever, geography, based on class, all these things are presented, you really have to stand firm within yourself and know a truth. You have to really grab a hold of a rock that is higher than those suggestions. Within yourself, and feel and allow it to resonate and allow it to resonate, and it will direct how you behave. Ultimately.
Oh my gosh, let that just center in.
Yes.
Because you're speaking such truth.
Yeah.
And I can feel, the consciousness, the vibration of what you're saying. And I love it, actually, what you said at the beginning of that, that together, that you have days where, of course, in a relationship, working together with So Kevia, maybe you could speak on that, because I'm sure people, women watching, or it's always, we always need to hear, that if something is wrong or seemingly not going right in our relationship, that it's not going wrong in our relationship, that we can use those principles and that prayer for our own good, for the relationship, our picture in a different way. That takes courage, doesn't it? Because we blame the other. But we're only blaming ourselves. We're only blaming ourselves, aren't we, when we do that?
Really, and and it's like Adrian said, and this has taken a lot of work for me to even come to this point. During this whole process where we all had to become still. It's like, hey, I'm really mad at me. I'm really upset and disappointed, at myself. And so, it does. And then you have to come back and say, you know what? I'm one with my good. So am I upset? Am I mad at myself? So I need to know that I need to still be gentle with myself. And then the other part of me, which is him, because again, we talk about divine union. We're all one. There's only one. That, I have to come back. Hey, I have to be gentle with me. And so because I have to be gentle with me, I have to be gentle. I'm being gentle with him. And I have to take care of me. So that means I'm taking care of him.
Yeah, that eliminates all the bull crap.
All of it.
See, there's no room for once you affirm that, and see, this is what we practice. When it gets really tough, remembering that there aren't two, there's one. So, but our marriage is the opportunity to practice that so we can be that wherever we go.
Right.
That's really a way to dissolve conflict and resolve conflict very quickly. Remembering,
say that again. Say that again. Say that again.
So the secret to dissolving and resolving conflict with people is remembering essentially there are no people, there's only one. Spiritually speaking, we're all one. So the marriage union we teach is an opportunity to practice taking care of yourself.
Yes.
So when I do something that offends Kevia, or she does something that offends me, instead of needing to defend myself or attack myself, I need to breathe and realize, wow, there's something I'm working through. So if she says, get your sock out of the floor, if I say, can't you make meatloaf tonight? Then when we slow down and recognize, wow, I'm making some demands on myself today. Let me slow down and nurture myself.
Yes.
Let me nurture myself, because the more I nurture my individual self, it will free me to nurture the other manifestations of myself, my wife, my children, my spouse, my partner, my coworker. And so as we practice this with self, it translates to family and on to community. And so when things happen, so we reframe. So the practice is, instead of attacking, remember, I'm going through something today. Love thy neighbor as thyself. And so then when I approach it that way, there's no argument. I'm only nurturing conscious. I'm nurturing conscious at that point, as opposed to defense consciousness. So when you remove defense consciousness, then we will have is a trend, a culture of taking care of one another. But that's a lot of work. See, everybody, you got to buy into that. You got to really buy into that. And so that's why we're doing a lot with trauma, because how we relate to one another is based on what we were conditioned to believe as to how we deal with people. But a lot of that was traumatic. We had traumas that inform us on how to behave in the community. And there are people who are claimed to be spiritual that spew out principles that are not addressing trauma. So you can practice saying beautiful principles. You can practice that, and you can create a vibration with you, but you get with some other people. So you find out what you're working with when you move with other expressions, other visible expressions. That's when you find out what's rooted in you, what the principles are rooted when you deal with others, because you're not really dealing with other people. You're dealing with other aspects of you.
Of yourself.
Of you.
Yes.
Yeah. And a lot of times we tend to forget that when we move amongst each other and we begin to rub each other. See, that's why I one of the favorite words is practice. I mean, it's really intense. It's not pretty. Practice is not pretty. No. Practice is roll up your metaphorical sleeves and you got to get that shovel out. You got to get that hoe. You got to get trash bags. When we go in that garden, it's dirty work that produces food. It produces beauty. The dirty work of gardening produces food for us. It produces healing for the body. And it creates beauty in the community, but it's dirty. You got to get down in there. Woo.
Oh, wow. This is weird. This is amazing. We're so blessed, that you're here and sharing and waking us up. Again.
Oh yeah.
Because
go ahead.
No, you go, Kevia. You go.
We started off with self, and then we went to marriage or partnership or couples, but and then to community, and I'm thinking, I always talk about my gardening, but then I I'm an entrepreneur, work, and I have to constantly deal with community.
Yes.
And so, there might be messages
Go
and
ahead.
stuff or
Yes.
conflict that comes up
Come on.
or what it seems like a conflict. And
Mhm.
so we have to manage those things.
Yes.
And I'm like,
yes.
oh, wow, this is a great example. Here it is. I'm dealing with an issue. And, just before we got on here, and
Talk
it's like,
about it. Yeah.
this is what's happening. Someone is blaming this person
Come
and,
on.
and spewing out all kinds of stuff. And then I have to I had to re-examine everything. I had to sit down for a minute and reevaluate and say, okay, so really, what are you saying? So I'm not going to come at you. I got to take a minute and reevaluate, reassess, and redirect myself and say, hey, you know what? I'm one with this person, and we can work together to resolve whatever is happening at this time, because really this is just me. So I'm dealing with a plumbing issue, with a client, and I have somebody spewing stuff at me, and I'm like, well, you know what is happening here with me? What is it that I need to resolve in me? Because again, we're talking about, we're one with all, right? There's only one, because it's not just me and Adrian. It's not just Adrian and I. It's Adrian and I in the community, because we are all individualized expressions of God, of good, which is one, right? We know this. So that plumber, that seller, that agent, I'm one with all of them. So now I have to come back and do the work and sit with myself. And I know I am one, and everything has worked out and is working out for our highest and best good. And so once that is done, guess what? I can clearly send an email and say what I have to say without spewing or without anger, without malice, and resolved and come to a resolve.
Come to a resolve.
Just come to a resolve.
There, come to it. It's
there,
yeah.
But I am, before I even send anything out, I'm becoming one with all, remembering that I am one with all.
And if I can add, and you know what? And Laura, that everything that we just said with all of its little branches, as you know, is prayer.
It's prayer. All of it.
So this is the action or the outpicturing of the ritual.
Yes.
So we take those principles, working them is prayer. It's an aroma, and it sends an aroma. The aroma of our practice is what fills the air of consciousness. And that aroma is what people respond to, or other consciousness, other individual conscious expressions respond to, that cosmic aroma.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a cosmic, there's a cosmic aroma, the divine. So the divine in me reaches for the divine in others as we intentionally practice the spiritual practices. And so that aroma fills, and other people respond to that without words, when we're practicing that without a whole lot of words, without a whole lot of discourse necessarily. There's a cosmic aroma and where we come into alignment. Yeah. And it causes us to come into alignment on a cosmic level. So we're intentional on a cosmic level. And a lot of people in the community, sometimes they may not even be aware of what is happening, but we're aware of what is happening.
Oh yeah.
We're aware of what is happening.
The work.
Because we're aware, we commit to that. We commit to that awareness. We commit to the practices of that awareness in love. In love. Yes. Yes. Yes.
This is just amazing, because what I'm witnessing here, for anyone that if you're watching this right now, or if you're on catch up watching it later on New Thought Media Network, or the Cosmic Prayer with Reverend Adrian Moore and his beautiful beloved wife Kevia, who are together powerhouse of prayer, of not only prayer but of intentional living.
Yes.
And I think this is what I'm hearing is that you are so intentional with the way that you're using this practice that it weaves in and out. In fact, it's not weaving in and out, it is always, and everything else is weaving in and out. And you are kind of navigating with prayer.
Yes.
And I think, I mean, you know, this is like the 55th show of Cosmic Prayer. And what I'm hearing from you is something quite unique, because I know this and we know this, but we don't always put this into practice. For many spiritually orientated people, we will sit, pray at the beginning of the day, pray at the end of the day, maybe in the middle of the day, and then that's it. We've done a spiritual mind treatment. And, you know, but this is like an ongoing, this is how life is kind of thing.
Yes. Absolutely.
Beautiful. So that when a situation comes, there is no doubt that prayer is going to solve this, because it's happening in my consciousness.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Commune with self.
Yeah. Communion.
Yeah.
Communion.
This is beautiful.
Yes.
This is really beautiful. And I think we all need this reminder that this practice is here. And it's not just a beginning and end of the day job done.
Right.
No.
Right.
This is constant gardening.
Lifestyle.
Gardening.
Constant gardening. Constant
work.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wow.
So, but I bet you didn't discover this just through last year. I mean, I know you surrendered to this last year.
Sure.
You've been doing this. You've been practicing this way for many years.
Yeah.
Yourself.
And something, you know, in that word click, you know, I think when I begin to, I think people come to the spiritual path in different ways. And I know for myself, coming to the spiritual path and coming into the new thought metaphysical arena, it gave me the tools. It gave me the tools needed to really develop practices. And I think it's just like with sports. You know, when you're young, you become attracted to a particular sport. And it's through practice that you discover different versions of yourself. You know, Michael Jordan, when he first started playing basketball, you know, there was a desire. But then when he got and so he continued to practice based on that desire. And a lot of that desire was to please his dad. But when he got to high school, he continued sharpening his game. And then he met another version of himself that took ownership of the skills in the game, and he developed a name for himself. But then that took him to college. That got him to on the college level. So he kept being introduced to different versions of himself until he became what we know as Michael Jordan. And I think for myself this year, and I'm sure Kevia, and I share this experience with Kevia, that we met different versions of ourselves, and we met a stronger, firmer version of ourselves through the commitment of the practice. Because see, when you come to the practice, you're scared to death. You're apprehensive. You don't really know it's going to work. You hope these things are going to work. But as you continue to practice them, you develop faith, you develop confidence, and you develop courage when you see the results. And we know that the positive results that we experience don't pop out of nowhere, so to speak. They show up from that which has always been. And so that piece registered, like, wait a minute, I'm not making anything up. I'm plugged into a power source that I am, and my mind is catching up with that truth. And so that's what builds the confidence. Oh, this is real. This is real. I can live a life and not be afraid. I can live life and claim and affirm what I want. I'm worthy of good. And it's okay for me to think that. Because everybody does not, we all don't start off thinking that we deserve it. We don't start off thinking. And so once you eliminate that, when you eliminate that whole idea of not being deserving and unworthiness, it opens up a whole new level of living.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Opens up a whole new phase of life, doesn't it? Of our understanding of our experience. I feel like, we could talk all day. Well, I could listen to you, for a long time. And so I'm going to have to get on to the total impact church Zoom call, and then I can hear you both, and hear you, Reverend Adrian, and I'm really soaking your teachings even more. Here we go. Total Impact Outreach Ministries.
Actually, that's someone else.
That's someone else.
Yeah,
Diego's being creative.
Yeah.
It's okay. We like to promote, you know.
We bless
We're one. We're one. We are one.
Yeah, so we're in prayer.
That's it.
We're prayer for them.
We bless them. Yeah. We bless them.
And for anybody that wants to reach you, your email is totalimpactchurch@gmail.com.
Yes.
You can find you here on Facebook, Total Impact Church.
Yeah.
And reach out, you know, to Reverend Adrian and to Kevia for prayer, for knowing of truth, for you've got an amazing class. Oh, there we are. Thank you, Diego. There's your Zoom link. And you've got a beautiful class coming up, Conscious Living, your Conscious Living class, Institute class, which is a 6-week course on the principles of consciousness, which are your principles for your ministry that you've developed and fine-tuned over the past while. So I know that's going to be really exciting for anyone that wants to tune into that.
Yep, we're starting tonight. Class begins tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that would be Eastern Standard Time. Right.
Eastern Standard, 7:30 p.m. So that's 12:30 in the UK.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, you know, at the end of this show, we always pray out.
Yes.
And it would just be a blessing if you two would join me in that, or if you two would like to lead that today, to give thanks, you know, and to set that intention, that purpose in prayer for whatever is in your heart right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So are you going to lead it, or
I'm going to lead it in? I'm just going to open it up, and I'm just going to hand it over to you, Reverend Adrian. So let's close our eyes here, and if you're watching and it's safe for you to do so, then take a breath and turn within, because I know that this place within is this place where we know, it's this place where everything is possible, because it's this place where there are possibilities. There is this potential, because this is God. This is the I am, and it is everywhere. It is everything. It has always been, and it always will be. And so right now it is happening. It is happening in this moment, and this supreme divine radiance of God is doing its thing right now. And I recognize that. I know that we are here united as one, because this is the one thing that is expressing through me as the I am that I am. This one thing is expressing as love, as joy and peace and possibility. And I know that this one thing is expressing as Reverend Adrian, as Kevia, as Diego, as Reverend Robert Brzezinski, as the Total Impact Church. This one thing that is showing up in its multiplicity, in these different ways, as it expresses as love right now, as everything. This I know. This I unite with, and I'm going to hand this over to Reverend Adrian.
Right here and now, we recognize the flow, the river flow of goodness.
Yes.
That has no beginning and has no end. And we allow that river of good to flow through us. We know that that river that flows through us right now refreshes us and everyone that comes to our consciousness. We recognize and affirm the presence, the divine presence in each and every individual. And we're knowing that all things are working together for good. And we're knowing that individuals all over are beginning to become more and more aware of the presence of a power, a source, an activity of good within them right now. We rest in this, we know this, right here at this moment. In the name and in the nature of the Christ. And so it is.
Yes.
So let it be. Amen. Ashe.
And so we'll do an affirmative affirmation that we would do at our church. And together we affirm that today is a great day for me, and I choose to love. Today is a great day for me, for you, for us. And we choose to live. Together we believe that today is a great day for us, for you, for me, and we choose to laugh. We choose happy, we choose joy. Today is a great day for me, for you, for us, and we choose to give. We know because of this presence that's in us, through us, and as us, that we are life. You are, I am life abundantly. And together we agree that the power is in me, in you, in us. Amen and Ashe.
And so it is.
Thank you for listening to Cosmic Prayer, your weekly shift with Laura Topper on the New Thought Media Network. If you've enjoyed this programming, please tell a friend and join us again next week for Cosmic Prayer, your weekly shift with Laura Topper.